Have you ever noticed what happens when a prominent sports team wins a championship? The coaching staff is often quickly broken apart. One coach is hired away by one team, another goes somewhere else, and within a short time the once successful organization is scattered. Do a quick search of the number of college football head coaches that worked with Nick Saban at one point in their careers. The results are astounding. Something similar happened in Mesopotamia after about 3000 BC. As Sumerian civilization flourished, people beyond Mesopotamia looked closely at what was happening there. They saw its wealth, agricultural surpluses, and vibrant trade networks, and decided they wanted a share of that prosperity. Rather than dividing Mesopotamia peacefully among themselves, waves of outsiders moved in and took control by force. These outsiders came from every direction, from the Arabian desert to the south and the Iranian plateau to the north. Over time, Mesopotamia was conquered and reconquered repeatedly. In addition to the peoples we will focus on here, the Akkadians and the Amorites, the region would later fall under the control of the Persians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, and Turks. Because of this constant pressure, the Sumerian city-states were almost always forced to defend themselves. Originally, Sumerian cities developed as independent communities. As they grew larger, conflict among them became more common. Occasionally, one city would dominate others for a time, but unifying Sumer was extremely difficult. Mesopotamia is a vast, featureless plain without natural boundaries. Unlike modern borders marked by rivers or mountains, such as the Red River separating Texas and Oklahoma, Mesopotamia offered no clear indication of where one political unit ended and another began. Around 2400 BCE, a Semitic people known as the Akkadians appeared on the scene. At first, they moved into existing Sumerian cities and also founded new ones of their own. Although they adopted Sumerian culture and religion, the Akkadian language gradually came to dominate Mesopotamia. During this period, political power began shifting away from priests and toward a warrior elite. Lands that had once been dedicated to the gods were increasingly reassigned to military leaders known as lugals, who commanded professional soldiers. Over time, these war leaders came to control both the government and the economy of the city-states. The lugals effectively became kings, marking the emergence of the first monarchies in Mesopotamia. These kings were not considered divine, but they were believed to rule with the approval of the gods. Military victory was interpreted as proof of divine favor. This political transformation reflected the increasingly violent conditions of Mesopotamian life. As warriors gained importance, warfare became more frequent and more sophisticated. We also begin to see the rise of a landowning warrior aristocracy. These elites held both wealth and military responsibility, advising kings while also expecting influence over political decisions. This arrangement often created tension. Kings saw themselves as accountable only to the gods, while aristocrats believed kings needed their support to rule effectively. These strains shaped Mesopotamian politics for centuries. Eventually, Sumer was unified by an extraordinary figure, Sargon of Akkad. Sargon was a man of humble and obscure origins, and legends claim he was abandoned as an infant and discovered floating in a basket on a river, a story strikingly similar to later accounts of Moses or Romulus and Remus, the legendary founders of Rome. Sargon was taken into the royal household, where his intelligence and ability allowed him to rise through the ranks. Unlike Moses, he ultimately became king. As ruler, Sargon transformed the Akkadians into a highly effective fighting force and expanded southward, conquering Sumer. His empire stretched from the Persian Gulf, up the Euphrates River, across northern Syria, and into Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey. It was an empire too large to govern directly, especially given the primitive communication systems of the time. Maintaining control required constant supervision of trade routes and military force. To do this, Sargon created history's first standing army and appointed relatives, including some women, to key administrative positions in hopes of ensuring loyalty. When he conquered Sumer, Sargon did not destroy its culture. Instead, he embraced it. This marked the beginning of a recurring pattern in history. The conquered culture shaped the conquerors. The Akkadians absorbed Sumerian customs, religion, and ideas, spreading Sumerian culture even more widely. Another Semitic group, the Amorites, followed. Gradually, they took control of Mesopotamia and established a new political order centered on the city of Babylon. The greatest Amorite ruler was Hammurabi, who reigned from 1792 to 1750 BCE. Hammurabi conquered much of Mesopotamia and adopted the impressive title King of the Four Quarters of the Earth. Hammurabi solved one of history's most persistent problems: how to rule an empire. He appointed governors to administer cities in his name and oversee courts and taxation. Most importantly, he issued a single law code that applied throughout his empire, creating a more uniform and stable system of justice. The Babylonian Empire lasted until around 1650 BCE, when Mesopotamia again fell to invading forces, this time the Hittites, a militarized Indo-European people likely originating near the Caspian region. By about 1300 BCE, they dominated much of the Near East, continuing the long pattern of conquest that defined Mesopotamian history.